What's the deal, my people? You know what it is, the Tourney Teflon, and I'm back at you another one. In this series, A Wolf with Dragon's Blood, we will go through every mystery surrounding Jon Snow. The first mystery we will tackle with Jon Snow is Jon Snow the Sword of the Morning? Or should I say, is Jon Snow the next Sword of the Morning? But first, we must ask ourselves, what is the Sword of the Morning? The Sword of the Morning is the title of House Dayne given to the knight who holds the great sword Dawn. It is said, only a knight of House Dayne who is deemed worthy may carry it, and this is what makes the Sword of the Mornings famous throughout the Seven Kingdoms. If there is no Dayne knight considered worthy, the title lies dormant. Now former Swords of the Morning are, the first, Sir Davos Dayne, husband of Princess Nymeria; Sir Aldrich Dayne, known as the greatest knight of his time, and the most famous of them all, Sir Arthur Dayne, and he is the last Dayne to hold the title Sword of the Morning, and he is a great warrior, renowned on the King's Guard. So, the fact that Jon Snow isn't a Dayne, does that mean he cannot be the Sword of the Morning? Well, there are rumors that it's possible that Jon Snow could have been a Dayne, but we will go back to those later. But first, let's learn a bit more about the sword Dawn itself. According to the legend, the founder of House Dayne followed the falling star to the mouth of the Torrentine, and on this spot he built Starfall, the seat of House Dayne. Now Dawn was forged from the magical stone, specifically the heart of this fallen star. And this is why the sigil of House Dayne shows a white sword and a falling star. Now the blade itself is supposedly as pale as milk glass, unlike Valyrian steel, which is dark, though they do possess similar strength and sharpness. Unlike other houses in the Seven Kingdoms, whose Valyrian steel swords are passed down from lord to lord, the sword Dawn must be given to a knight deemed worthy, and a knight of House Dayne. George R. Martin is quoted in saying, "Dawn remains at Starfall until another Sword of the Morning shall arise." So hearing this, one must assume that there is no way that Jon Snow can be the next Sword of the Morning, for the fact that he does not have Dayne blood, he is not a knight. So those two things lead you to believe that there is no way that Jon Snow can be the next Sword of the Morning. But let's go on and figure this out. If Dawn is the sword of the next king, and Jon Snow is to be that king, then we can consider Dawn the Game of Thrones version of Excalibur. And as LaDonna Sargent pointed out to me, Excalibur was a sword that was pulled from a stone, while Dawn is a sword that was made from a stone. And also we see that the names of the wielders of the sword match Arthur. Now it seems that House Stark, House Targaryen, and House Dayne all collided in one spot, the tourney at Harrenhal, and the participants we see there are Ned Stark, Brandon Stark, Azor Ahai, Rhaegar Targaryen, and Lyanna Stark. And between these people is why we have the mystery, is Jon Snow able to get the title Sword of the Morning? So before we go into exactly what happened at the tourney of Harrenhal, we must go back and look at Rhaegar Targaryen and figure out why he decided to become a warrior. Prince Rhaegar was born at Summerhall the same day of the great tragedy there. He was the firstborn son of King Aerys II Targaryen and Queen Rhaella. As a child, he read obsessively, to the point that he was made fun of for reading so much. It is said that Rhaegar loved to sing and loved songs, but not the Song of Steel. It is also said that Rhaegar loved his harp more than his lance, but after he read something, he set out to and became a great warrior. So, what did he read to make him think that he needed to become a great warrior? Well, we find this out from Maester Aemon. It was a prince that was promised, not a princess. Rhaegar, I thought. The smoke was from the fire that had devoured Summerhall on the day of his birth. The salt from the tears shed for those who died. He shared my belief when he was young, but later he became persuaded that it was his own son who fulfilled the prophecy. For a comet had been seen above King's Landing on the night of Aegon was conceived. But Rhaegar was certain the bleeding star had to be a comet. What fools we were, who thought ourselves so wise. So we see here that Rhaegar and Maester Aemon also knew about the prophecy of Azor Ahai, and they knew exactly what the prophecy of Azor Ahai was. And Rhaegar, when he first read this, believed that it was himself that would become Azor Ahai. And then he believed that it was his son after he didn't think it was himself. Because when his son Aegon was born, there was a comet. Now, this shows that Maester Aemon was wrong. Rhaegar was wrong, but right. And he got it right the final time. The fact that Rhaegar believed in Azor Ahai prophecy so much that he started training and became a warrior when he didn't really like to fight means one thing, that Rhaegar Targaryen believed in the White Walkers. While everybody else thought the White Walkers were just fake, Rhaegar believed this. Now, Rhaegar's best friend is Sir Arthur Dayne. It's his most trusted friend. History of the Sword of the Morning has something to do with Azor Ahai, as both prophecies and House Dayne itself, sigil, comes from a shooting star. So it is possible that Rhaegar Targaryen thought House Dayne had something to do with this prophecy, since they both have the shooting star in them. But we will get into that more later. What we will talk about right now is the leading events up to the birth of Jon Snow. And this is the Tourney of Harrenhal. Now, Ashura Dayne, who was sister of Sir Arthur Dayne, was named Lady-in-Waiting to Princess Elia Martell, who was the wife of Prince Rhaegar Targaryen. Now, at the Tourney of Harrenhal, she danced with a couple of men. One, Barristan Selmy, another, Prince Oberyn Martell, and the Lord Jon Connington. Now, Ashura then danced with Eddard Stark, but it wasn't until Brandon Stark asked for him to dance with her because Ned was too shy to ask for this dance. Now, according to Illyria Dayne, Ashura and Ned fell in love at Harrenhal. But if we listen to Barristan Selmy, who was also in love with Ashura, he tells somewhat different tale, as he says that Ashura Dayne was dishonored at Harrenhal that goes by the name Stark. Now, while this is going on, Rhaegar Targaryen, who was married to Princess Elia Martell, sees Lyanna Stark, and he plays a song, and this song is so sad, it is supposedly makes her cry on the spot, where she gets teased by her brother, and she assaults her brother because that's what wolf blood does. So we have all the players together in this one place. Now let's break down what actually happened. Now we have the story that Ashura and Ned fell in love with each other at this tourney in Harrenhal. But we also have the story from Barristan that says that she was dishonored by someone named Stark. Now, the fact that Ned was so shy to talk to her, we must believe that he is not the one to dishonor her. And the only one there that would have pulled this off is Brandon Stark. And we know that Brandon Stark has a lot of Pepe Le Pew in him. So it must be a Brandon Stark that did something with her later on this night. Now, whether it was against her will or she was for it, it is unknown. But Barristan Selmy must have somehow learned about this and felt bad enough about it that he called it dishonoring her. So it must be sex out of wedlock. Now, during the great tourney of Harrenhal, Rhaegar was unstoppable, and he even defeated Sir Arthur Dayne. Taking the Winter Rose crown for the Queen of Love and Beauty, he then exposed his feelings for Lyanna Stark by walking right past his wife, Princess Elia of Dawn, and setting the rose crown in the lap of Lyanna Stark. When Ned Stark thinks of this moment later on, he recalls it as the moment when all the smiles died. This led to Robert's rebellion, and Rhaegar met Robert Baratheon in combat at the Battle of the Trident. And even though Rhaegar wounded Robert, he was struck down from one blow of Robert's warhammer, sending the rubies that were in Rhaegar's arbor into the water. And while Rhaegar lay dead in the stream, Rhaegar then died with Lyanna Stark's name on his lips. So now, let's break down exactly what happened here, and why Rhaegar was willing to disrespect his wife, disrespect his family, and ultimately die for this love of this one woman. So we know that Rhaegar is a great reader, and we know that Rhaegar Targaryen first thought that he was Azor Ahai reborn, and then he thought that it was his son, that Aegon, that would be Azor Ahai reborn. But I believe he realized from reading something that it was neither both of them, and it had to be with a woman from the house of Stark to make this baby. And once he realized this, he set out to get Lyanna Stark. And the fact that he believed in the White Walkers and that they would come and take over the earth, he did not care about his honor. He did not care about his family name. He did not care about what wars it would start or what people said about him, because he knew that he had to have this son with this woman, because he knew that this son that he would have would be Azor Ahai. Now, this is the reason why he became best friends with Sir Arthur Dayne, because during his readings he must have known that that sword that they hold, Dawn, is actually the sword of Azor Ahai, Lightbringer. And this is why I believe that Arthur Dayne was not allowed to go to the Trident and fight alongside Rhaegar, because Rhaegar had a plan that if he were to die at this point, that Arthur Dayne would take his son in the Tower of Joy that was there and take it over to his sister, for his sister to raise as a Dayne. Thus nobody knowing that that was Rhaegar's child, and knowing that Robert and them would destroy or kill any Targaryen that would be left. Arthur Dayne stayed behind to protect this child that he also knew and believed in the prophecy himself, that this child would be the next Azor Ahai. That is why Arthur Dayne says this line in the show.
Your friend, the usurper, would lie beneath the ground if we had been.
The Mad King is dead. Rhaegar lies beneath the ground. Why weren't you there to protect your prince?
Our prince wanted us here. I wish you good fortune in the wars to come.
Because the wars that are to come are the wars with the White Walkers that he knew about. And we also see this happen with Aegon and Jon Connington for further proof. Now after the combat at the Tower of Joy, Eddard Stark goes to Starfall to tell Azor Dayne about the death of Sir Arthur and return to them his body and the great sword Dawn. Now it is not said how long he stays there, but we know that when he left with a wet nurse, and this wet nurse was supposedly the woman who he had an affair with and had Jon Snow, which we know is a lie. After this, at some point, Ashara jumps from the top of the Pale Stone Sword, one of the towers in Starfall, into the sea. Yet her body is never recovered, and we can see this as Ashara becoming the Lady of the Lake, the person who ultimately gives King Arthur Excalibur. Now let's break it down a little bit further. I believe that Azor Dayne told Ned Stark about the prophecy of Azor Ahai, and told him exactly why Rhaegar was in love with Lyanna and why he had the child with Lyanna, and also told him that it was her that Rhaegar wanted to raise Jon Snow. But Ned Stark instead said that I will say that this is my child that I had, and I will take him back to Winterfell with me and protect him there. Now I don't believe that Ned Stark believed in Azor Ahai prophecy, but since he was willing to give up his own honor to protect Jon, him and Azor Dayne came up with this backup story that it was his and Wylla's baby, and that is why she allowed Wylla to go with him and transport Jon Snow with him all the way back to Winterfell and nurse Jon Snow as a baby until they got there. Now, when actors are giving roles in shows, they are told certain things so that they can reflect emotional distress and project that through the camera. So I want you to look at Ned Stark's face before he beheads this Night's Watchman who claims to have seen a White Walker.
I saw the White Walkers.
And I think right here from Ned Stark's face we can see that Ned Stark is saying to himself, oh my God, this prophecy might really be coming true. And that is why he gives that look. So was Jon Snow the next Sword of the Morning? And the answer is yes. Because he was supposed to be raised as a Dayne. But Ned Stark did not allow that to happen. And I believe that Sir Arthur Dayne and Rhaegar Targaryen both know that that sword that they hold, Dorne, is Lightbringer. So if he was raised as a Dayne and then became a great warrior, they would not deny him access to the sword. The time was needed when the White Walkers would strike. And in part 2, we will talk about why Jon Snow is Azor Ahai, who is Nissa, and where Azor Dayne has been hiding all these years. And if you like the way I do this, please thumb up this, please spread this across the realm, and please subscribe, because you know who it is. The Don, Tony Teflon, House Teflon, Teflon 316. We pull the strings. Peace! And stay sexy.